Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. Tonight on Now, 9 OUI charges. How do you even get to that point? We're asking the Secretary of State.
The infant mortality rate in our state is at some point really alarming, and we're going to have a live guest in studio, the state health official, take your questions about it.
Also, a fire in Lewiston, we now know the cause, was a marijuana growing operation. What are your rights as a tenant or even a landlord in that situation?
We'll find out. This is News Center Now. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to News Center Now. I'm Lee Goldberg.
And I am Amanda Hill. This is a big talker today. A man from Maine is going to spend the next 7 years in jail because today he was convicted of his 9th OUI charge.
Yeah, how do you get to 9, right? That's the question. Last August, Mark Burnsom rear-ended a police cruiser driven by a Thompson police officer. Now, Burnsom was driving with a restricted license, and according to police reports, his blood alcohol level was 0.35. That is more than 4 times the legal limit. Officer Sherland posted this picture on Facebook after the accident happened. He suffered minor neck injuries in the crash. He spoke in court today, telling the judge that he's glad that Burnsom found him with his car because the situation could have been much worse. Burnsom also spoke, apologizing and taking responsibility for his actions. The state asked for the maximum sentence of 10 years. The judge gave him 9 years, 2 of them suspended. The judge included a probation period and rehabilitation.
You know, I hope he takes these seriously, more seriously than the 8 prior. As you heard in the courtroom, I thought he probably wouldn't, but I think 7 years of incarceration is going to give him a lot of time to think about how his crime could have impacted society in an even worse way.
We see a lot of substance abuse issues here in Maine with alcohol, drugs, everything like that, and I feel that people need to get help. And it's not always about the sentencing itself and jail time. It's about getting the help they need and, you know, trying to clean up the streets as best we can.
Okay, like we said, a lot of people have been talking about this on social media, so we came out into the newsroom to find Jess Gagne, who was in court today for this.
Yes, and I have been scrolling through our News Center Now Facebook page too, and a lot of the questions that people seem to be asking is, how could this happen? How could somebody with 9 OUIs still be allowed on the road? Now, Bursom's convictions date back to 1979. The state actually said today that his first felony OUI charge came in 2007. So I asked Secretary of State Matt Dunlap, how can somebody who has so many charges still be on the road? And here's what he had to say.
The legislature has not taken the position yet where someone should lose their license forever. And until it does, then we may be dealing with the occasional mark. Most people, like I say, they go through it one time and they never make that same mistake twice. So the system that way works pretty well. But you do have these rare cases where the disincentives are almost meaningless to someone who has a real drug or alcohol problem. And that's when you get into some of the other remedial issues.
Dunlap also said that drinking and driving suspensions over the past 10 years have dropped about 50%, though to be fair, he did say that it has something to do with the economy as well. People aren't actually going out and drinking as much. They don't have as much money to spend. He also said that the laws and the penalties have gotten stronger as the years have gone by as well, too. But still, you know, somebody who has had 9 OUI charges can get a restricted license.
Yeah, and that number stood out. I mean, everybody
sure.
on Facebook, like, really,
Right.
9? You know,
yeah, and
so
the comments just keep pouring in. You know, a lot of people saying
Right.
one's too many and so on and so forth. But
Right.
you heard what Matt said. Right now, they don't take a stance on taking somebody's license away forever. So
Interesting. All right. Thanks, Jess. Hey, more and more and more rain, although this weekend's not looking so bad. Keith?
Yes, I like that you're looking at the positive, Amanda, because today, a nasty day, a lot of clouds, a lot of rain. Look at the speed in which this rain is coming in off the Gulf of Maine. This is never a good look for the state when you have this much moisture flowing in this strongly on a south and southeast wind. So the rest of tonight will be showery. You can see some of the heaviest rain, though, starting to pivot to our east, and the center of the low being seen to the southeast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So things will simmer down after midnight tonight, and then tomorrow will be kind of a slow moving clearing process. Here are the showers through 9:30 tonight. Temperatures don't really drop that much overnight because of the clouds, because of the showers. We stay in the upper 40s in most spots. Tomorrow morning, you notice there's a lot less shower activity, but there's still quite a bit of cloud cover over the entire state. By the afternoon, we try to break a few of those clouds up over western and southern Maine. Might see a late day peak of sunshine over the western part of the state. It'll be the first time we've seen sun since Monday's sunset. But as you alluded to, Amanda, we do have some nicer weather coming. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Keith, thank you very much. Check this out. An apartment building on Vale Street in Lewiston evacuated yesterday because fire tore through it, but it's the cause of the fire that will make you nervous if you are a landlord or a tenant.
Yeah, it's not great. An investigator says this is the third time he's seen a marijuana grow operation spark a fire just within the city of Lewiston. A tenant on the second floor was growing plants for himself in a tent in one of his rooms. Investigator Paul Willett says there's actually nothing illegal about that, but it is incredibly dangerous. Growing requires electricity and moisture, two things that we know do not mix well. Lewiston's director of code enforcement says they created rules against caregivers growing in multi-family buildings, but couldn't restrict patients and now recreational users from growing their own.
We wrote legislation, the council enacted it back in 2011 because we were really concerned where the community might go with medical marijuana. We were very concerned with people growing in multifamilies. We saw that would create odor issues, moisture issues. Most of these buildings don't have the electrical capacity for the grow lights and that sort of thing.
The other thing, many of these grow operations are hidden in either a closet or a small space because they don't want their landlord to find out, which creates even more of a fire danger. So with the possible danger to others, we wanted to know what your legal rights are as a tenant in a building with someone who's growing.
Chris, what do you got for us for answers?
Well, Lee and Amanda, we wanted to compile a list of all of your legal rights. What can a tenant do when they're concerned about someone who is growing marijuana in their apartment building? The answer is nothing. Legally, there is nothing you can do to take action against someone who is growing marijuana in the same building as you, so long as that person is operating legally with the appropriate number of plants and not selling the marijuana. So what about landlords? Right now, there's no law that allows landlords to evict someone solely on the basis for growing marijuana. The president of the Southern Maine Landlord Association says there is no case law for this and that these are uncharted waters.
It's scary is what it is, because I think we feel the liability to concern for our other tenants, concern for fires, for, are we still running afoul of federal laws? Are the feds going to come in? And we just don't know. And we're in the middle of it and we're trying to do our best. But yeah, it's a little disorienting, and we're just trying to make the best decisions we can.
Vitalia says they're encouraging landlords to list in the lease up front if they will allow marijuana growing or not. Now, growing marijuana for recreational use does not fall under a protected class, so if a landlord prohibits growing in the lease, he or she would have grounds to evict someone if the tenant breaks that agreement. Lee and Amanda?
That's scary. So I rent, and that makes me nervous because, like our fire investigators said, there is so much that can go wrong with a growing operation. His thing was like, well, you better just make sure that your smoke detectors are working.
Well, and I wonder if it's one of those things that because the marijuana issue is new to us, that will come eventually. Like there will eventually be some type of laws that will recourse for landlords and so forth. So
that was the city of Lewiston. Their code enforcement officer was like, we're sort of at this point waiting for the state to sort of figure this all out. So because it is all new, it's a lot to figure out.
Another one of those unanswered questions.
Hey, did you guys see this scrolling through Facebook or Instagram today? It's Maine State Police warning about a possible breach at Chipotle restaurants. We actually stopped by the South Portland branch today, and it didn't appear to be slowing things down much. Here's what's going on. Police say the restaurant discovered unauthorized activity on its payment processing system. The company thinks at this point they have caught the so-called no good nicks, if you will. But if you did use your credit or debit card at the restaurant between March 24th and April 18th specifically, check your statement very carefully. report any unusual activity to the credit card company or bank, no matter how small this strange amount may be. By the way, 12 locations between Maine and New Hampshire. At this point, Chipotle is still investigating, guys, and they do plan to reach out to any impacted customers as soon as they have more information. But at this point, they're just saying, here's the date range. We don't have much more beyond that.
At least there's that.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make you leery, though, every time you pull out a credit card?
Well, but how many times have we done stories like this where this is now happening almost everywhere you go? Right. So, I mean, it used to be like nobody carried cash. They only used debit and credit cards. Maybe it's going to flip back the other way.
Go back to the old-fashioned way.
Old school.
Old school, indeed. All right, here's more news now.
I'd like to give a shout out to my family back in Windham, Maine.
An Army veteran from Maine is now charged with really a horrific case of animal cruelty. Investigators say Marina Rollins tied her service dog to a tree and shot it 5 times while her soldier boyfriend filmed it. The dog was reportedly Rollins' medical service dog. She does now live in North Carolina. Katahdin Woods and Waters National Monument isn't large enough to trigger an automatic review by the Trump administration. However, it could still be reviewed. Today, President Trump signed an executive order mandating the review of monuments all across the country. He believes millions of acres may have been unfairly blocked from use by farmers, timber companies, and ranchers. The automatic review trigger, that point is 100,000 acres, and Katahdin Woods and Waters is 87,000 acres. Of course, Governor LePage, he was there today for the signing. He is hoping for both the review and the reversal of this land designated as a national monument.
Interesting. I didn't know the land.
Yeah.
All right, problems continue for United Airlines. Now a city is actually requesting a business travel ban.
And did you do Keith's homework assignment? He'll tell us his thoughts on a documentary, Cowspiracy. That's later on Now. Welcome back, everybody. Last week we talked about the infant mortality rate here in Maine, and specifically in certain counties. The numbers can certainly be considered alarming. Dr. Christopher Pizzullo is the state health officer for the CDC and joins us now to talk about this topic. And thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
If the number is 1, it's too many. So as a general topic, like, how do we deal with this problem?
Well, I think one way to think about it is that we want it to be going down. Certainly, Maine's current infant mortality rate is a little bit higher than the U.S. rate. There's some good news, though. Since 2013, the rate has been dropping each year. So 14, 15, and preliminary numbers for 16 show that the rate is dropping still further. There seem to be a couple of things that are driving our infant mortality rate, 2 of which I think we could maybe do something about.
Sure, and let's show those now, because this is something that you wrote about, I think, back in September.
Yeah, in an op-ed.
And these are for you, the 4 primary, and this is for our state specifically.
That's correct.
So here they are.
You want me to read them?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so issues related to prematurity, congenital conditions, and then sudden infant death, either explained or unexplained. So the 2 that probably we can make the most difference with are issues related to prematurity, which may have connections to moms who are using substances during pregnancy, which includes cigarettes and alcohol, and certainly the sudden unexplained infant deaths very often has to do with unsafe sleep. I'd love to talk more about that.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, there are parents that do co-sleep. They have their kids in their bed, and I mean, is that just across the board, flat out, don't ever do this?
Right. You know, it's interesting because in some ways, public health, we thought we had this problem solved by around 2010, because since around 1993, we've been telling parents in the United States, please have your infants sleep in safe environments, which means make sure that they have a firm mattress, not a soft mattress. Make sure there isn't any sheepskin or something soft underneath them. Make sure there's not a lot of blankets or things that they could choke on, no bumper pads, those kinds of things. What we've noticed is that the amount of babies who have been in unsafe sleep conditions in Maine, just through interviews, is on the rise. So certainly it's related to unexplained infant death, but it's also, there are many babies in Maine who are sleeping in unsafe sleep conditions. So if we could get that message out, your baby needs to sleep on their back, right, on a firm mattress, nothing surrounding them. I don't know how best to get that message out. Maybe you can help.
All right, well, we're going to thank you for your time. This will hopefully help, and we're going to talk to you, our viewers who are watching us on Facebook, and talk during the commercial break. Might have some questions for you that I see coming in. Perfect. So thank you for sticking around, and we will certainly keep talking about this topic because it's obviously very, very important. So
you got it.
Thank you for the time, man.
Thank you.
More rain in the forecast and some sunshine, if I could talk, as now continues.
The bad news continues for United Airlines. You've probably been under a rock for the last few weeks if you didn't already see this video. It's the video of a passenger getting dragged off a plane after refusing to give up his seat so they could fit more crew members.
Yeah, now a city in New England is taking a stance against the airline. Monday night, the Cambridge, Massachusetts City Council passed a proposal asking their city manager to ban business travel with United if there is any other transportation option. The city mayor says she hopes this will send a clear message to the airline.
It's kind of harsh.
Tough week for him.
I think I'm over seeing that video.
Yeah.
I'm over it.
I think it was obviously poorly planned, but I think they get it. So hopefully it works out.
I mean,
from
hopefully
there.
they get the message.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll find out. I'm doing JetBlue in a couple days. If they drag me off the plane, you'll see it.
All right.
They got TV monitors.
Just make sure. I don't care if they do. Just make sure you're rolling on it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Just as long as you record it, we don't care what happens.
Tell us first.
Hey, what a tough day today. Just no sunshine at all. A lot of clouds, a lot of rain. Look at the speed in which this is coming off the Gulf of Maine. Ton of moisture, just as we thought today. Basically a washout with periods of really heavy rain at times along the coastline. Here's the center of the low to the south and east of Nantucket here. This will be lifting out, so the heaviest rain will start to settle down later tonight. We'll deal with a few showers after midnight, and then tomorrow will be a slow clearing kind of day. So here's the rain tonight. Down east, probably seeing the heaviest stuff. By midnight, you notice the showers are a lot lighter, but they're still around. And through the day on Thursday, pretty thick cloud cover, warmer temperatures. We should get to around 60 degrees and maybe a late day peak of sunshine over western and southern Maine. I think most of us, unfortunately, do not see the sun, though, tomorrow. As far as total rainfall left, here we're looking at about a ½ inch in most spots. Heaviest rain mid-coast and down east. Pretty much done in the mountains with under a 1/10 of an inch additional. So this low moves out. We have a stubborn clearing day as we head into Thursday. And then Friday's interesting because we will see showers as a cold front comes through. But once the front comes through, we get into a drying west-northwest wind and start to see some warm temperatures Friday afternoon, probably around 70. 70 again on Saturday with just a chance for a sprinkle. But the whole weekend is going to be about the warm front position. We're going to be dancing with this warm front. Saturday, we're to the south of the warm front, so 70. On Sunday, a lot of sunshine, but we get to the north of it. So unfortunately, on Sunday, temperatures will be substantially cooler. Here's a look at your extended forecast. You know, I mentioned this before. As far as a good stretch of weather to have, at least it's falling towards the weekend. It is worth noting, guys, these are not lock sunshine all day kind of days, Friday and Saturday, but most of it will be dry, and us getting to around 70 I think will compensate for any showers we might see. Sunday is actually a sunnier day, but because of the warm front moving through, we'll be in the upper 50s to around 60, and then another chance of showers and back to partly sunny on Wednesday. So just kind of, we're buying 1 or 2 nice days per 3, looking for a good word for it, not nice days.
Well,
at the moment.
when you see chance of sprinkle, and that's good,
right,
you know you're in a tough pattern.
It's encouraging.
Like if you're hoping for that, that's not
some
good.
sunshine would be nice. Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back.
On Monday, I gave you all a homework assignment. Watch a movie called Cowspiracy. Form an opinion and get back to me. The main thrust of the documentary is the assertion that animal agriculture is a leading source of greenhouse gas emissions. So let's take a look at what Cowspiracy got right and what was fuzzy science. Let's begin with what I believe to be the main inaccuracy of the movie, the stat that animal agriculture accounts for a whopping 51% of greenhouse gas emissions. Through all my research, the scientific consensus seemed to fall between 13 and 25%. So where exactly did 51% come from? Well, it turns out the study they got this figure comes from made 2 very crucial errors. The first, they added all the CO2 domesticated animals breathe out via respiration. But there's one big problem with that. It's part of the natural CO2 cycle. It's not an addition. Animals take in CO2 via plants, break it down, and then the process repeats itself. And regardless of whether or not the animal ever existed or ever ate the plant itself would still respire. It would still put that CO2 back in the air during the course of its life and finally upon its death. So by understanding this basic cycle, it's clear that you can't add animal respiration to the net sum of the impact, as that CO2 would be present either way. The other main issue comes when the amount of greenhouse gas emissions are counted in animal agriculture versus that of transportation. And that's one of the big parts of this whole movie, is how much more it is than transportation. Well, in the case of animal ag, they took the whole process into account, from growing feed to transporting feed to producing the meat to shipping the meat, etc. However, in the case of transportation, they only counted literally what's coming out of a tailpipe in fossil fuel emission. It's not apples to apples. In order for it to be a fair comparison, you'd have to consider the whole supply chain, which includes fuel refining, distribution, and actually manufacturing the car itself. So as far as the narrative of the movie, this is one of those things that is a big swing and a miss. The other thing to think about is some of the people who are presented as experts in this movie. They're not scientists, and they're not actually even truly introduced that way if you pay attention. These people do have experience in cattle raising and in some cases in actually producing the meat, but they're not qualified scientifically. So well, those are all the problems. But what exactly did the movie get right? Well, they got right the fact that animal agriculture is a major contributor of greenhouse gases. There is no doubt about that. Even conservative estimates have that at over 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. Without suggesting that everyone go vegan, it's still notable that there could be a big dent in CO2 emissions with reduced meat consumption. In addition to the CO2 factor, there's also no dispute that livestock is a driving factor for much of the deforestation that occurs, specifically in the Amazon rainforest. And last but not least, there is a driving problem here. There's not enough land to keep up with the growing meat demand. So either people eat less meat, or there are less people to eat it. So all in all, Cowspiracy brings to light the multifaceted nature of greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. But it's certainly not the silver bullet. A solution that incorporates less fossil fuels and reduced meat consumption would be the best way into the future. So, as you can see, it's not a hook, line, and sinker situation.
Yeah.
It brings up some good points, but there's some, I don't want to say twisted science, but there's some misleading science in that as well. So I asked people to watch it on my Facebook page and respond to it. So we had a couple of people, and this is a really interesting point by Dana, which is basically all of this comes down to the fact that the Earth is overpopulating.